Battlerite is one of my babies. So much time and commitment put into one game. Love and hate. But the true question is Battlerite still worth playing? Hell nah, that game is trash. Throw that shit in the garbage. Nah, I'm just playing. Talking about Battlerite in 2020 is a bit of a complicated thing to do. I want to explain the things I like and the things wrong with this game without steering possible new players away. First, I'll talk about the positives and naturally bring up the negatives. I also have about 500 hours in this game and would consider myself somewhat of a casual, at least not a tryhard, I guess. I'm not the best, but I'm not the worst. I just play for fun. So with all that, I think I'll have somewhat of a unique review. Anyway, let's get into it. I'm just gonna explain the basics, but if you've played this game a lot, I'd skip to this time. So Battlerite is a free-to-play, top-down, fast-paced arena MOBA. It looks like League of Legends, but plays in an arena setting with no farming and more of a focus on your abilities and landing your auto attacks. You can play in 1 vs 1, 2v2, 3v3, and first to win 3 rounds wins the entire match. There's different champions with different playstyles that you can customize with cosmetics and a loadout. The main objective is to eliminate the enemy players, but there's also a center orb that spawns and gives you health and energy. You can go for little health and energy orbs around the map too. There's a lot of little things to learn, like timing your abilities, having the right loadout, dodging enemy abilities, getting the orb before the enemy, you know, stuff like that. I hope that explains it well enough to newer players, or if you're someone who doesn't play MOBAs that much like me, Battlerite should be a little easier to understand or look at. There's not a million things on the screen to look at like items, gold, or a map. It's more like looking at a fighting game. You pay attention to the movements, what abilities your opponent used, and which ones you're gonna use. Except replace abilities with fighting moves or combos, and you know what I mean. But my point is that Battlerite is not a traditional MOBA, and that's why I mostly like it. I like the idea of MOBAs, but not a big fan of the gameplay for games like Dota or League. I'm more of a casual MOBA player, so I leaned towards games like Smite and Battlerite. These games care more about the action and gameplay, which is just more appealing to some of us. Battlerite can be a gateway for someone who hasn't played a MOBA before. It could be somewhat easy to learn considering it's technically a MOBA, and hard to master for most people. There's not an overwhelming amount of stuff to worry about. The biggest things are landing your abilities and dodging the enemy abilities, but obviously there's more stuff like your positioning, teammates, cooldowns, the orb, etc, etc. But it's just enough stuff to make you think, but not feel too overwhelmed. Even at 500 hours, I understand most of this game. I'm better than your average Joe, but I would still have so much to improve on. There's people with the same amount of time as me that could whoop my ass, but I take this game very casually. I only play a few games daily, like half an hour or so on average. This is a good and a bad thing, because I did enjoy having a MOBA I can casually play, but part of the reason I would play for less than an hour is because of lack of motivation. I usually need some alternative reason to keep playing a game, whether it's getting a currency, leveling up, updates, dare I say a grind, but here comes the worst part of this game. They haven't had a content update since October 2019, and they never will. This was their last official update, and they only followed up with different types of sales. For existing and veteran players, this hit us right in the gut. But for newer players who are interested, this won't matter at first. If just the gameplay and concept for this game looks fun to you, you easily have a few hundred hours of content, but it won't be long until you want something like a new champion or event or something. Playing Battlerite now feels like a shell of its former self. There used to be updates, there used to be a thriving community. there used to be a peak of 40,000 players. Yeah, I bet you didn't expect that. This game used to have something going for it, averaging thousands of players. Now Battlerite is lucky if there's 1,000. There was serious potential here, and as a player from the beginning, it hurts my soul. As I'm recording this, there's an average of like 400 players. It goes up and down, but this could be seen in two ways. One where you laugh at the numbers and somewhat discredit the game, you know, for a good reason, I guess. And one where you appreciate this game not being totally dead, and you could still find a queue sometimes in just a few minutes. There's a lot of memes about being Battlerite dead, and I understand where they're coming from. They're kind of right. Comparing this game's new numbers to the old ones and to other multiplayer games, yeah, it's kinda dead. But to me, a multiplayer game being dead is really when you can't find a game online. In Battlerite's defense, if you just started playing this game and didn't know how many players were online and didn't know that the developers weren't updating it, it wouldn't feel that dead. The base gameplay is still amazing. There's a small but sometimes very friendly community. The servers seem mostly fine, and the queue times are mostly good, at least for me. Battlerite can still be a great experience. The biggest thing holding back your experience nowadays is the matchmaking. If you're a new player, this will kick you in the nuts sometimes. A bronze player can play against a platinum player. I'm talking about a casual game, not ranked, but I'm pretty certain a silver player can play against a diamond player in ranked or something like that. Now that's an actual problem with the smaller player base. This can make the learning curve really hard sometimes. Even if you're a regular player, this makes playing different champions difficult. I don't like to main one character in these types of games, I like variety, so it's annoying playing against like a diamond player who only plays and mastered this one champion. I used to play a lot of ranked back in the day with my friends in this game's prime, and I used to take ranked seriously sometimes. The best games are when they're really close and everyone's skill is matched up enough. Winning those games are the best feelings, especially when voice communicating with a friend. When the games are really that close, you will be immersed and your heart will be beating a lot like mine did. I think a multiplayer game truly has to be good enough to get these certain intense feelings. That competitive, skillful feeling. Using your abilities correctly, being in a good position, stealing the orb, coordinating with your teammate, using your champion to their full potential. It's things like that that make you feel really skilled and that make you feel good and satisfied with the gameplay. Battlerite's also a pretty balanced game to my knowledge. I would say there's no one best champion. You can pretty much play anyone you like and master them. Now there are some pretty good and seemingly unbeatable combos, but that's a whole nother story. There's three main play styles: melee, ranged, and support. I used to play all three, but for a long time I only cared about melees and sometimes ranged. I usually like range in these types of games, but it's something about the movement, the maps, the champion, and the camera angle that made me want to play melee. You can see almost everything you want to see with the top-down view, and most melees have mobile abilities. It just felt good playing a MOBA game where I mainly played melee characters. The character I played most was Rook. Admittedly, he's like a beginner character, kinda like Jade, but just casually playing, he's really fun. I think the champions are well made enough where everyone would find a champion they really like, if not a lot of them. There are some really annoying and try-hard champion combos, but any form of communication or teamwork helps a lot. I mostly played this game solo, at least in the second half, but if you have a friend or two to play with, this game is free, and as long as there's enough players online, it's definitely worth a try. I didn't want to go too much into the development and history of this game. I'll just say at times it wasn't good, and the developers made some mistakes. The worst one I can remember is when they said they were going to add a Battle Royale mode to the game, a mode I don't normally care about, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. But they kind of stopped updating the main game while making the Battle Royale, and this really hurt the community. It also didn't end up being just a mode. They made it an entire game, Battlerite Royale, a whole other game where you don't keep the same currencies, champions, and skins. I didn't even care to play. I just stuck to the original game. I'm sure you can find a video or forum talking about these topics more specifically, but that's just all I'll say about it for now. Man, it just really sucks how Battlerite ended up the way it did. I really liked this game and saw major potential. They were meeting that potential to me back in the day when they were adding champions, maps, events. Even the Battle Pass made me want to play a lot more. I miss when there's actually something to be excited about. Like this being a MOBA, a multiplayer game that are usually very active and have tons to do. I already feel about done with this game. Like, imagine being addicted to a game like League of Legends, or for me personally, Smite. Can you imagine how many hours you'd have to put into those games to feel done with them? I put a couple thousand hours into Smite, and I don't feel anywhere close to being finished. There's still tons of gods to master, updates to learn, a bunch of achievements and progress to make, but after 500 hours into Battlerite, I feel about done. I have a pretty good mastery on all the champions I care about. I have legendary or good skins on almost all of the champions. I completed all but one achievement. I have a lot of cool pets, mounts, and emotes, just all the extra cosmetic stuff. I only cared about leveling up my champions towards the end. There just wasn't much, if anything, for me to grind for anymore. That's really my only problem with playing Battlerite nowadays aside from the matchmaking. Not much motivation or progress to make. I got gold and platinum in ranked most of the time, and it felt good enough for me, even though the last season is just gonna go on forever. You know how in most games ranked goes seasonally? Yeah, this last season is just gonna go on forever, so you have all the time in the world. The only thing that kept me going after no updates were the daily quests, and they took out playing supports for the daily quests, so that's a role I just entirely stopped playing. It's like no matter how much I was still enjoying this game, it just wasn't meant to be forever. This is pretty much where I say goodbye to Battlerite, lay my baby to rest. I used to play this game daily and often with my friends. I have 500 hours now, which is a lot for me. It's just a distant memory now, but that's just my story for this game. I wanted to put it into a video. I know I said some negative things like the matchmaking taking advantage of you, and lag could be really annoying when it screws you, but if you never played this game and it looks fun, give it a shot. And if you used to play this game and didn't spam the dead game meme, maybe go back and see how the game treats you nowadays. This video is longer than most of my videos nowadays, but I had a lot to share and a lot of history with Battlerite. I wanted to go out with a bang by reflecting on the game while recommending it and bringing it in the light of new players. I'm almost jealous of them, because if you like this game like I did, you have the advantage of not being disappointed by false hope. But I'm also glad I got to experience the updates back in the day. Battlerite was also a bit of experience for me, learning that not every game is made to make it, and that anything could happen. I knew indie games were a thing, but I was more optimistic and naive, especially when it comes to the direction of this game. Now I can view certain games in a more realistic and better way. Like, not every game is AAA quality and can bounce back from financial issues, but for a team of about 30 people and this being their biggest game, Battlerite did pretty good. I hope Stunlock Studios learns from Battlerite and makes an even better game. It's kind of funny thinking back that I didn't like this game at first, but now it's one of my most played and favorite games of all time. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. There was a lot to talk about. I wanted to reminisce and review Battlerite as a longtime player while passing it on to new players. I hope I did a good mixture of both. If you're on my channel often, you'll see I do a lot of 50-hour reviews. Try a 500-hour review. It'll be a long time before I do another review like this. Unless I review Smite. But yeah, guys, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, drop a comment with any opinion on Battlerite, and leave a comment like Battlerite 2020 or Battlerite 2021, depending on what year you're watching this, so I know who watched the whole video and is more special to me. And subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more of me. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.